And once again on Design Television, we are back with Svetlana and our special guest tonight. He's a serial entrepreneur, a co-founder of over 5 different companies, and a millennial guy, Peter Ratnikov. Welcome, Peter, on Design Television. How are you?
Very, very good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, Peter. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very different topic and a subject that I have actually never dealt with. And this is all about trading in a normal language, which is not normal for me, but I'm sure, Peter, it is definitely for you. It's called cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. Uh, what should one know about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin before they step in this world of yours? What are the do's and the don'ts? Is it for a normal person, a common man, or you have to specialize in it?
So a good way to compare for most people to understand is kind of comparing it to the internet, right? So when the internet started forming in the 90s, early 2000s, very few people invested in internet companies or built infrastructures, but there's lots of opportunity there throughout that whole period before we went through the social media boom that we see today. So that's kind of what's happening now in the cryptocurrency space, where we're building a new form of internet, a new form of network that we could get powered by cell phones and other forms of technology. That's going to be one of the base layers for things like social media and many more platforms going forward in the future. And if you take no action on the financial side of things or on the creative side of building and programming, there's nothing wrong with that. This is a technology. The only way it's not going to be here is we somehow go away from being digital. So if we go back to like hunting and gathering in some strange reality, then yes, this technology could go away. But then the world as we know, we couldn't be having this podcast right now, cell phones. So as long as technology is here to stay, which it seems like it is, you will be using this technology in 5, 10, 15 years, undoubtedly. Whether you're conscious about it or not, it'll be there in the background. Just like when you use anything on the internet, there's a bunch of infrastructures, but now you just download an app, hit a sign up button, and it seems simple, right? But if you use the internet in 98, 2004, things weren't as simple as they are now. So this is the same stage we are with this new technology. And you have to realize it's a new technology. Yes, it seems like a stock market and people are speculating on the price of this and that every given moment, right? So not only is it confusing because it seems like they call them Bitcoins, but there's no actual coins, it's just digital. We call little nicknames, like people don't know the terminology, so if they hear it, they don't on a podcast documentary, like they call them wallets, which are Bitcoin bank accounts, so you understand, but there's no actual physical wallet. So everything about the space is like kind of confusing. Not that it was necessarily meant to be like that. So yes, getting into the space is an option. And if somebody has extra resources, this is one of the first times as human beings we've built a ecosystem from people working its way up. Every other time, every financial institution, every single big movement we've had was always the other way around. It would start from a big company, a government, and work its way down when it comes to finances, stocks, things of that nature. This is something that started from regular people, and now it's starting to be adopted by the biggest institutions and talked about by some of the most powerful people in the world. And you could still take action as they're taking action. And when it becomes the new infrastructure of the one of the ways we interact digitally, well then yes, you'll be using it as well, but you've missed the opportunity to take advantage. And for anyone that's missed the internet wave, just take some action. Like imagine you put a few $100s, or not about the money, just whatever you could afford, whatever minimalist amounts, and you put it in the internet, like an index for internet, which didn't really exist, right? Now you kind of have those options. By making a few safe moves, you could have yourself exposed. Even there's ways to do it on the stock market, which I don't recommend, but there's ways to make sure you have yourself exposed to this new way of interacting and this biggest digital network that's forming in front of our eyes right now.
Mm-hmm. So do you have to really go through, does anyone need a financial institution account to go through these kind of tradings, or does one need to really have a bank account for that? Because I've been asked these questions quite often. uh, or any credit score, those kind of little things. If you can just throw some light on
Yeah,
that.
so there's actually, if you do it the way through cash, there's absolutely no barrier to entrance. Like you could start with, I'm sure, a few pesos in Mexico or rubles in Russia, or in our case, most ATMs have a $20, some of them have a $5 limit. So you could get in with just literally as little as $20 in Canada, for example, right? It doesn't have to be a huge number to learn how to use the technology. So you start to see them pop around depending where you are. If there's no ATMs, like Bitcoin ATMs around you where you live, there's definitely a broker, whether it be a physical or you could find them digitally and then meet up with them in person. Local Bitcoins has been around 5+ years, and several years ago you were able to every major city in the world find a broker. So now it still exists, and it's even a bigger ecosystem now.
Mhm. So is there
So
any kind of
there's no restriction to get in, right? So, but warning the people, they're gonna make it seem like everybody wants your information these days, whether it's a social media company, whether it's any platform you download. So when you sign up to most accounts, they'll make it seem like you need to sign up your bank. But if you look, there's always a skip option. If there's not, that's the first sign that you shouldn't be using that platform. So make sure when you join with just an email and a password, things of that nature, and you don't jump that route. If you want to go down that route later for whatever reason, you can find platforms that are insured, platforms that are accredited, and then maybe with them, if that's the route you want to go, is a good option. But in the beginning, you just sign up with just your email confirmation, maybe Google two ways, things like that, maybe a phone at maximum, but definitely there's no reason to be linking your identity or bank account. That's just to avoid, there's so much fraud in our space now because it is money, right? It is a form of income, and there's been so much fraud happening all across in the space, and it's just better to avoid it at all costs, especially if you're a newcomer to the space. Eventually, when you get some more information, some more contacts, you get a feeling of what platforms are legit, which ones have been around, then you can make better decisions. But in the beginning, you just don't know what you don't know. So just play it safe and start small, and then get good advice, or just put more due diligence in, and it won't take you days or months. It'll take you several hours a few times in your life to realize which are the stable platforms, why are they here to stay, what makes them different. It seems complicated in the beginning, just like using an iPad would have been, but you see the advantages very fast, and it doesn't take as much time as you think to grasp the basic concepts.
so let's assume that I'm investing, right? And I'm doing a trading part. What are the chances of highs and lows? Is it always high, or is it like a low too? Like what
Yeah,
is the graph?
it goes completely up and down, right? So if you got it in 2015, it was about $200-300 US. Then it jumped up to, slowly over time, it went 6, 12, it took its levels, but all the way to 19,800, so just under 20,000 US in the peak of 2017. And then it dropped all the way back down to about 14 or 10, jumped back up. People thought that was it, and then it went all the way down to 6 and eventually down to 3 for a short brief of time. So someone that invested in the peak of that market, let's say they bought $10,000 worth, right? They would have lost, what is that, 85% of their value, right? So they would be down to $1,500. So there's definitely massive downs. But if you've bought in Bitcoin at any time, at any point in history, and held it for 3 years, so if you're getting in, that should be a number you have in your head, 3, 4, 5 years. No one has ever lost. So even if you bought on that day and you held today, now Bitcoin is worth about $50,000 US today. So even somebody who bought it at the wrongest time, if they just didn't panic and sell it and just maintained it, they ended up doing fine. So no matter what price you get into in the foreseeable short term, if you're going to keep it 3, 4, 5 years, most likely you're going to do really well. Even if you get in the complete wrong time when we're having the blow off top in this next market cycle, but you know that you're holding this for the long term, you're going to do well.
How different is it from stock markets? Was my next question to you. How
So the
different?
biggest difference is if you're doing cryptocurrency the right way, and certain ways which are like, there's ways to go even deeper, but just meaning you're using it, the actual technology yourself, you're not letting somebody else do it on your behalf. You hit one wrong button and that's it. You make a mistake, there's no one to correct it for you. So it's much more not riskier in the sense of like, there's no one to correct your mistakes, there's no one to call, right? But there is now platforms that have pros and cons to them that will back you up like that. But if you're actually using the real technology, like you're using them on, we use a terminology called blockchain, but think of it as like a digital ledger system. So if you're using the actual ledger system and not letting somebody use it on your behalf, there is major risks if you're not being careful, right? But if you take the right precautions, it's not as complicated as it seems. It's just a matter of just double checking little things, and once in a while humans are going to have errors. And the other biggest difference is it's 24 hours. All the stock markets open at a certain time, close at a certain time. It's usually 8-9 hours a day or something like that. But this market here is nonstop, 24/7. And sometimes on a Sunday night, it could be more volatile than it was the whole week. So there's none of this closing your trades and forgetting about it, unless like if you're like, it's always going up and down. There's no just, okay, we forgot about it, I can rest. So it seems kind of riskier, but it's more exciting. That's how the world should be. Everything is 24 hours right now. If you want to watch anything right now, you don't have to wait. You just go and do it. There's no restrictions of 8 hours a day. That's the old infrastructure. So we're long overdue for technology. Now, for example, you can buy a lot of mainstream stocks on exchanges in cryptocurrency. So I can buy whatever Amazon stock, et cetera, or partial stocks with my cryptocurrency 24 hours. So we're already providing a service for the stock industry that they can't even provide for themselves. And we're still like a little baby in the pond compared to what's going to happen with the resources and the movement. We're still not a big player when you look at the numbers of users, the number of money in our ecosystem. Like these are still, there's been less than half of 1% of the planet that's ever used cryptocurrency. It's still early. People think it's late because prices are inflated if you've been paying attention, but it's not about the prices. It's about that people are going to be using this technology and very few are right now. And that's what opens the door to opportunity.
Okay, fair enough. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in conversation with the millennial guy, Peter, who is helping you out with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. We'll be back after a short break with Svetlana, and she's sitting there quietly. I'm sure you have a lot of questions out there in her head. Back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are in conversation with Peter and Svetlana. Svetlana, your call now. Any questions for Peter here for IWB Group?
First of all, thank you, Peter, for stepping up and educating people. What I like about the field is transparency. In application for business, it provides it solves a lot of problems that we have today in the world. And I'm an impact investment in impact space. Period. I'm here to do good for people and for the humanity. So it was just a matter of time that Peter would be stepping up for something like that. It was his field. First of all, my gratitude to all the leaders who are stepping up for doing good for people and for the planet. And Peter is one of them. As for technology, in my opinion, it's just very logical. There's exactly like Peter said, and our girls, immigrant women in business, they're slowly getting educated. It's just like anything else. Like we select business, you, your husband, all senior level business people. We take the time, we evaluate the opportunity, we take logical decisions to make the right decision in business. It's really nothing really complicated here. Take the time. It's very logical. So that's why it's very exciting. And one thing I'd like to share why I'm so excited because it provides people opportunity. And people, they come to Canada. People all over the world, they love opportunities. There's a lot of scam out there. There's a lot of nonsense. But in Canada, like specifically, if you ask me for immigrant women in business, they come to this world they come to Canada. They leave their own country to do something spectacular in this beautiful Canadian land. And having opportunities to do something good and capitalize on them and bring that goodness to their families, to Canadian economy, to Canadian people, to their own multicultural communities, and to the world. That's what excites me. That's an opportunity where people can bring freedom. That's the technology that solves a lot of problems in the world. Mine is just simply get educated. And immigrant women in business, people that start getting more comfortable, start getting educated because of Peter, because he stepped up. I asked him to. I said, Peter, we're here to bring goodness. I know that it's intense package of knowledge, but let's start educating people. Right, and that's where we are. It's not scary, and maybe Peter, because initially Mickey had a little bit because it gets complicated, it gets intense, that technology. Maybe you can share that it's not really a beast. It's created to humanize a lot of things. It's a typical peer-to-peer, people-driven piece that is going to solve a lot of problems. So it's very exciting. So just people, maybe you can simplify that excitement part for people, that they just need to capitalize on that. It doesn't have to be complicated. They don't need to trade and be there, sink their teeth. Just simple strategy, like Peter said, buy and hold. You'll be good to go. People has helped a lot of people just by that strategy. They didn't need to do anything. Just follow logic, follow trusted advisors. As Peter said, there's a lot of scam out there, and come to people like Peter. That's why I ask him. He's very comfortable. He's good, but his heart is for people. That's why he's here with us, because he knows that. Again, the people who doing things for money. Peter loves his money, loves his financial freedom, but most importantly, Peter is here for people, and that's what this technology is for. And when you get passionate, when you learn about the technology, it's impossible not to get passionate about it.
Yeah, so there's people that get into it, right? Mm-hmm. Keep it very simple, right? Start off like if you sent an email, if you joined email for the first time in your life, you wouldn't sign up to 5 different email providers. You would just get good with just Hotmail, just Gmail, just whatever it was the case, right? So don't go into it looking like, oh my God, there's all these options. Step one, how do I get Bitcoin? If you're already an investor or you're someone that has a proportionate amount of wealth that you're looking to put into it, so right away, buy something for $100. It's called a Nano Ledger S. There's competitors like Trezor and KeepKey. It looks like a USB stick. It's a device meant to keep your digital asset that you're buying, whether it be Bitcoin or whatever one, off the internet and completely safe. They're trusted. They've been around. So once you have that, the main thing to remember is they're going to give you 24 words to write down one time on this device. Do not keep those words in the same place. If somebody takes a picture, could be one of your kids' friends, you have a party one day you forgot, like somebody could just snap a picture and those words give access to your account. It would just be like, be very careful with that. And then I would also laminate the paper. I would have two pieces of paper laminated, maybe even 2 copies. And you could have 2 in the same location, right? Because there's only 12 words and 2 in a different sets in 2 different locations. So even if somebody finds the 12 words, you're still safe, right? So I know this seems like confusing and tedious. We talked about in the beginning a little bit. You're responsible for your financial wealth in this case, or your financial digital asset. And that's something new. And that new skill that you're learning could pay you good rewards. And it might be uncomfortable, but that's the trade-off. You're sacrificing doing something you've never done before, but you could gain a reward because you're doing it before the masses. 99+% of people on the planet haven't went out, took that step. They might have heard about it. They might have had a friend. They might have joined a platform and lost money, but they didn't actually go out and buy and hold the digital asset themselves. Someone with a smaller account, you could open one of these Bitcoin apps that we talk about. Trust is a good wallet. It makes you write down the 12 words. Exact same strategy I just said. In this case, with the Ledger, it's 24 words. With a Trust wallet, which you download on your app, TRUST, right? It makes you write down the 12 words, which I like. This is why it's the new wallet I recommend. And same thing, you keep those 6 and 6 separate. Now, no matter what happens to you on the planet, if you could get access back to those words, your money is safe. That's the most important thing to realize. So as complicated as all this is, if you can manage to not show people your 24 or 12 words and keep them in a safe place, after that, it's literally as easy as using PayPal or Western Union. It's just another interface you're using. And the interface happens to be called Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polkadot, Binance token, whatever the case may be, right? So it's much more simple when you get down to grassroots. And if you're a bigger investor, you're literally never even holding your funds on the internet. You're buying the Ledger as your first step. You open like the Ledger account that gives you your Bitcoin bank account number, or your Bitcoin address is what we call it. And then you literally go to your local broker and she sends or he sends the money right from them off the internet. There's no chance of it being hacked, no chance of any Wi-Fi compromise, nothing like that. And your funds are secure. And the great thing about it also is it makes it a little bit more difficult than a few buttons on your phone to get it out, because you have to get this USB device, you have to connect it to your computer, and then you have to, write the password and make things happen. So the moment you're considering panic selling because maybe the price went up or down drastically and it's emotionally difficult, it's not as easy as going on your phone and going click, 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 right? It gives you that barrier into like, do I really want it? It adds some physical nature to something that's completely digital. So whether you see a mining operation, that gives you a physical perspective of how big the computer network is and why it's so important, or whether you see this USB stick, it's nice to have some physical components to something that's primarily in the digital space.
Okay, talking about Bitcoin, Peter, some people call it digital gold. What is the term digital gold?
Okay, so understanding that is what makes the problem that Bitcoin solved. I mentioned this a lot, is before Bitcoin, everything digital. Whether you send me a video, a photo, a voice memo, a text email, I can make 1 million, 1 billion, 100 billion copies of whatever you send to me. So the first time ever, and there's been other attempts to make these forms of digital rarity assets that failed. So Bitcoin was the first successful project that made something digital and rare. And for no reason, the number that was chosen was 21 million. So they decided that in all time, there's only going to ever be 21 million of these digital assets. And in each unit, they have 10 million small units called Satoshis. So in one Bitcoin has 10 million Satoshis. So you could divide it very, very, very small. That's why I mean someone buying a few pesos or rubles, which is fractions of a penny by US terms, is still able to operate in this digital asset class because it goes down to such a small fractal, right? So you only have 21 million of them, and think of it as like digital real estate, right? There's only going to be that, and the more marketing, the more excitement, no matter what, if people get excited about gold or stocks, they mine more gold. It takes long, you have to go on the ground, but at the end of the day, more mining companies are formed. If you more stocks can be made, derivatives off gold, right? Which is kind of happening in Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, people still want the physical asset. So there's such a limited amount, right? And that's the number they chose. So there's already 18.5 million that exists right now. And I think there's about 40,000 millionaires on the planet. And if every millionaire just wants to own one Bitcoin, which by today's prices would be not very heavy in their portfolio, there would still only be 21 million Bitcoins. And no matter what any human being does, there will never be more of this. So we've never had a deflationary asset that we've used as a currency. Like gold is close, comparable, but it's still slightly inflationary. So we have a truly deflationary, meaning there's less and less and less. And humanity has been needing this for a very long time. Because everyone that's been born past 1970, and even if you were born in the 50s, you don't really remember those times, right? So since 1970 on, everybody just thinks that the current financial system is the only one that's ever existed. It's the one that's here to stay. How could we have something else? That hasn't always been the case. And because every adult alive right now has only seen this, for their mind and their psyche to think that something could massively change, it doesn't seem likely or possible. But it's happening right now. So whether the transition is 5, 10, 15 years, the transition is happening as we speak.
One last question before I let go of you, Peter. Is there any kind of commitment that one has to follow, or they can get rid of it anytime? Is there a
Well,
time?
it's a matter of finding the same broker, right? And let's say you're doing it on a more like usually where you live locally, it's better just to establish a relationship with someone in the industry. So with someone that's brokering Bitcoin, you find the ATM you like, combination, whatever the case may be. But let's say you're traveling and you want access to your funds and you don't want to find someone in a different country where you don't know anybody and you would be meeting a stranger essentially, right? So just to be safe in those instances, it was an option in 2016, 17. Then they gave us a hard time in 2008, 18 and 19, and they just welcomed it back last year, and it's active this year. You can get Bitcoin debit Visa cards. So it's essentially like a prepaid debit Visa. And then you would load your Bitcoin onto that card, and you go to any ATM, regular ATM that works, and pull out dollars, pesos, rubles, whatever the case may be. Or you just go right to the restaurant or wherever you're spending your resources on, and you just swipe away like you would normally, and people wouldn't even know that you're using Bitcoin. So that's already an option right now, today.
That is something which is very interesting piece of information. It looks like Svetlana. I don't know whether you knew it or not, but of course, this is something different. And
Yeah.
uh, ladies and gentlemen, we were in conversation with the millennial guy, as they call him, Peter. Peter has been dealing with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency trading. You can call it trading, but that is a very layman term. Uh, any kind of information that you're looking for, how to, the do's, the don'ts. One last question that is hitting my head: is there any kind of course you have to do, or any kind of education, or it's just a very basic, any common man can be a part of it?
Yes, it's as basic as opening an email, and in some cases even more simpler than that. But the important things that we emphasized earlier is the importance of not forgetting your password, backing up, having those words just in case you do lose your phone, just in case something does happen. That is the most important thing. It's actually just taking those small precautions that seem kind of silly. Oh, there's some words, like who cares? But if one day those words have life-changing value in your life and you made a mistake with them, you're going to really regret it. So the simplest thing is actually what you need to do is make sure you remember your password. Make sure you don't log in from any. Right now, there's tons of hacks even on legit platforms. So don't be logging in from random computers or just checking in Google searches and logging. That's the main way. If you go into a site that's not official, click and you type in your password and email and you're still interested in the site you're looking to get, they're going to save it. And one day they're going to bank it up a month, a year later, and they're going to take everybody's funds. So it's little things of, if it's big money, that's why I emphasize the USB stick and getting it off the internet, whichever brand you decide to go with. And if you are using it on a smaller level, download a wallet on your phone and only use that to begin with. Just the same concept as you wouldn't open 5 email accounts and you haven't even figured out how to structure a proper email yet. So don't go and sign up to 5 different exchanges or 5 different wallets and accounts. Get familiar with one and make sure you do it safely, right? So it's sad to say, but common sense, like don't let yourself get hacked. You wouldn't leave a bunch of cash on the street. You wouldn't give your internet passwords to someone randomly. But if somebody positions it a certain way and you're new to the space, just be very, very careful. That is the biggest scare for anyone entering the space, I would say, is just be very cautious of how you, and where you operate. Don't do too much. Start with the basics and then work your way up.
Any tip? Again, I'm asking before I let go of you because there are a lot of questions that are going on in my head, and I don't think so that this will be covered in one session. Peter, any tip for top 5 cryptocurrencies for our newcomers? Any kind of advice? I know
Yeah,
that
so
number
there
is
is well, I'll explain it as briefly as I can. It's not really like an index fund, but I use these terminologies so people in the other world can understand it. And if you've never heard of an index fund, it's like, instead of, if there's a bunch of companies, right? Instead of you buying one specific company to invest in, you can buy a pool of 10 or 100 companies, right? So this is what an index fund is in traditional markets. So what's happening in our ecosystem outside of Bitcoin is we're building a new internet, like 3.0, where you're going to own your digital assets. And there's thousands and thousands and hundreds of solid projects coming out on competitors to Ethereum, competitors to Bitcoin. So there's coins like Ethereum. That would be the second one I would recommend. There's coins like Binance Token. There's coins like Polkadot, right? There's Cardano and other great projects doing great things, but you're investing in an ecosystem that's building many different factors. So by you holding these top projects, it's kind of you being diverse and invest almost in like an index fund, because instead of you being a trader and chasing every single little project coming out, that's almost a full-time job. But if you're just buying these big, secure platforms that so much action is happening on, even if you get a little bit more returns, less from others, one of those takes off, you're going to do so well, it's not going to matter how much you lose on the other returns. And you diversifying into the core base level of what could be the new way people interact digitally around the world, like essentially the internet 3.0, for the better lack of terminology for it, that is something to take advantage of. So we go Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polkadot, Binance Token, Cardano Solid. There's an index fund called MVI, Metaverse Index Fund. And the new hype is NFTs, which is one-of-one digital assets. So by holding that, they actually have a team of people that's actively buying and trading different platforms and things. So you'd be exposed to the new excitement, which is NFT. Anyone that doesn't know what that means, no big deal. Just know it's a new, we have like, we started with just finance. Then we were able to launch different kind of currencies besides just Bitcoin. That was exciting for people. And they promised to do different things. Then we started having decentralized finance, meaning things you can do in a bank, you were able to do in our world. And now this technology is presenting something that's not even been an option for humans before, to make one-of-one digital assets that are unique to their personality or unique to whatever the cause is. This didn't exist before. So by investing in the 4 or 5 I just mentioned right now, they're kind of like building all these things within their own ecosystem. And by holding them, you'll be very well diverse in the space.
Thank you so much, Peter, for that piece of information. Ladies and gentlemen.
Again, the full disclosure, do your own research. This is trading, not trading. This is not financial advice. This is trading entertainment. But there is lots of opportunity. Do your own research and make sure you're doing it safely.
Yes, Peter, your peterratnikov.com is the site which is flashing. You can have his videos there and a lot of information. He has his phone number there, 416-828-7706. You can find it on my page as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank Peter for that little bit of information on trading. He's your commerce guy, I believe. And definitely, please feel free to talk to him along with Svetlana Ratnikova. I'm sure our audiences will know who you are. She's the CEO of RTG Group Inc. and a co-founder and a social entrepreneur, mentor and impact investor, everything. Thank you so much, Peter, for this piece of information, and we really like it. We have a lot of people commenting online while they're watching you online, and they actually are telling that you are the man and we should listen to you when it comes to the commerce side of every human being. And of course, not many people are there who are there to give genuine advice. And yes, please contact Peter. Again, I say that we have his phone number flashing, 416-828-7706. And thank you for being our guest tonight, Peter, at a very short notice. Thank you, Svetlana. It's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Miki.
Thank you for having me.